Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and welcome back to Mikey Techs, my tech channel where I go over gaming related gear, specifically desk setups and other things like that. Now today we're going to be going over another Hall effect switch, and we have to thank Gateron for sending me out the Gateron Attractions. So they sent this out to me. I was really curious about these ones. I heard some good things, I heard people enjoying it. Right now the whole market with Hall effect switches, there's quite a lot of new ones that are coming out, and it seems to be kind of going all over the place where like we have expensive ones, we're getting some cheaper ones. It's more sitting in the middle though, like we have $2 to like 60 cents, and then in the middle we're going to have to see what these are like. And of course I'll give you guys a little reference test in terms of which switch was specifically will be the Cullinans, because I think that's what a lot of people are thinking is very popular and good. So we'll use that as a reference point, and then we'll do the sound test for this one. So let's go straight into this, but please make sure to like and subscribe. So one of the things I do appreciate is that Gateron does provide a nice container in terms of their switches, and the overall thing that I felt about these switches was that they sounded actually decently clacky. Not even thocky, but more clacky. I would say it's a nice change in terms of pace, in terms of Hall effect switches, because we've just been getting so many thocky, marbly switches. It's nice to get something a little bit more clacky. Now in terms of the travel distance, we are still getting 3.2 millimeters. I'm not a big fan of this low travel overall. Now in terms of spring, it is going to be a single stage spring at 18 millimeters, and these do feel quite decent. I would say overall there is a little bit of resistance at the top end, which is kind of interesting. We'll take a look later. Now in terms of the lubing, it is decently done. I would say their stock lubing is not the worst, but it's also not very consistent. You can kind of tell here that the lubing is not like all around the stem, but it's actually in certain areas, and it's not fully like covering everything, but it doesn't mean that you have to hand lube these switches. And the bottom does come apart. It is a closed off magnet, so that's where it's getting a little bit more sound and less of the magnet hitting, but I still don't like the overall missing depth in terms of the sounds of Hall effect switches. Now in terms of the loudness, these aren't very loud, but in person, compared to what the decibel was showing with like 62 decibels, it is actually a bit louder. Now in terms of like what I was saying earlier, it does feel like there's a resistance at the top and almost like a bump, and overall the top out sound is improved. Still quite plasticky sounding, I would say, compared to like mechanical switches, but hopefully it keeps improving from there. Now in terms of the, say, stability of these switches, the top end does have a little bit of movement, but the bottom, once you push it down, it definitely doesn't move much, where you're getting very little rattle, which is very good. But just keep in mind, on the top end, it's not going to be the most stable. Now in terms of the backlighting, it is actually decently bright, not super bright compared to, say, like the lacquers out there or other switches that are more transparent, even compared to say like the Union Shine. These ones are going to be decent, but they are going to be changed in terms of the color. So as you can see here, this is like the 50% point, and then it's going to the 75%, and then it goes all the way to 100. So it's not the brightest switch out there either. Now, overall, I do think the attractions are actually pretty decent. I think that the colors were just way too expensive in terms of like just buying the Switch standalone. And I think the Union Ice Shine is still probably one of my most favorite Switches in terms of like between the price points where it's not crazy expensive, but it's still expensive, but it's not cheap. Cheap, like say for example the Herons from Omnitype. It's a little bit above that point. So I would hope to see we get more Switches around there. I think the Gaterons are also pricing, they're starting to get lower and lower, which is really good to see. But I'd love to see some more upgrades with magnetic switches. In general, they still lack a little bit of that sound depth that, say, mechanical switches have. And I really do hope we can really get there soon. I'm really hoping that my Switch can also come out soon too. So hopefully we'll get some news and hopefully some more updates in terms of that as well. If you want to keep up with that news, you can join the Discord channel and of course ask me questions. But please, check out the other videos I got and I'll have to catch you guys next time.